Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are going to talk about chapter 19 of the Tao Te Ching. This one is titled Diminishing the Self, and it has some connections with chapter 18 about neglecting the Tao, so we might refer to some of it as well. I listened to a really neat talk about this, and the person was saying that in the traditional text, in the ancient Chinese text written over 2,000 years ago, the distinctions between these verses and these chapters were not as clear cut and set in stone. There is a lot of scholarly belief that chapter 18 and 19 sort of go as a matching set, and they kind of refer to things. I'm going to do my best to try and let chapter 19 speak for itself without referring to the ideas that we talked about in neglecting the Tao and the ideas that we talked about basically in, leading that life and being a good person just because, but it definitely crosses over. So I think I'm going to read it. Here's the beautiful picture on this, and there's the chapter 19 in its traditional Chinese characters, and then what it's written. So, diminishing the self. Renounce the sacred wisdom and abandon knowledge. The people will profit 100-fold. Renounce benevolence and abandon righteousness. The people will return to filial piety and charity. Renounce ingenuity and abandon profit. There will be no more robbery and theft. These three propositions are not doctrine enough by themselves. We must also follow these precepts. Look to the simple and treasure the straightforward. Diminish the self and control desire. So, diminishing the self. That doesn't seem like a very popular idea in our current society. Today, it's all about taking selfies and showing people what you eat, showing people what you do, showing people where you go, who your friends are, what music you like. It is all very self-centered. It is all very self-centric. And is it any wonder that we have an absolute epidemic of people struggling with identity, mental health, who they are, disorders of eating, disorders of body dysmorphia, not really recognizing yourself. Our society is obsessed with identity and persona and celebrity. Our society is completely wrapped up in this cult of personality for everyone's personality. Everybody wants to be the cool, quiet guy, the James Dean drifter who drifts into school and is just too cool for it, and everybody wants to be him. Everybody wants to be the mean girl who is mean and catty, but she's deep underneath, and she's just so beautiful and does it so effortlessly. We have all of these characters and these ideas of who we want to be and how we want to present ourselves, and everyone is obsessed with the labels of, oh, you're this, you're that, you're this, and short or tall or wide and thin. And we are absolutely obsessed with the idea of self and the vision of who you are. And I think a lot of ancient people knew who they were, and that person that they were wasn't someone who was obsessed with themselves. So this chapter is quite powerful, and the idea behind it, so we'll get into what it's actually saying now. Diminishing the self. So the first line is renounce the sacred wisdom and abandon knowledge. If I had to sum up this entire chapter in one simple sentence, what I would say is, it is not enough to want to be a good person and to do things that make you a good person. So to be righteous, to be benevolent. If you're doing that just because you're like, well, I want to be a good person and it's what a good person would do, that's really not cutting it. If you want to be a good person, you have to start with a change within yourself. You have to change the entire current. You can't just change the surface level. And that starts with being mindful, embracing many of the ideas of Taoism, embracing the idea that you don't actually matter. We can't control the universe. We can control how we react to it, and that's it. And the real change comes from changing this, and then the surface level stuff changes automatically, because it's really easy to be nice to someone for the sake of being nice and to look like a good person, or it's so easy to stand up for something that's right when you're virtue signaling. You don't actually care. You know, I've had so many instances where I've witnessed someone virtue signal and they don't actually care about the issue. They don't actually care about what the provocation or the incident was, but they know that they can gain a lot of social capital by making a big fuss and dragging someone through the mud and finger waving. And I've seen this a lot through my life, and it's always rubbed me the wrong way. And so this is why chapter 19 really hits home, is because it's not actual change. It's not actual authentic reality. You know, it's just somebody trying to look good. It's just somebody doing something for the sake of being a good person. And you should not have to do anything for the sake of being a good person. If you're a good person, you're just going to do it. You'll see something and go, oh, that's not right. The idea of how is this going to look doesn't come into it. That's an ego thing. That's a self-image thing. That is not what you're aiming for. What you're aiming for is to just be a good person. And that starts with within change. It's not about doing external things. It's not about posting it on Instagram. It's not about any of that stuff whatsoever. It is just about being a genuinely good person and going through the steps and taking the time to really think these things through and look at life and look at your impact and assess how those things affect you. And that change, that work, that effort starts within, and it changes your worldview. It changes how you view your history. It changes how you interact with humans around you. It changes everything. Have you ever, this is a good question for the comments if you were so inclined. Have you ever met someone and you've had a relationship with them for a bit of time, and then suddenly something happens and they fundamentally change? Typically, this change is for the worse. This is usually a regression. This is usually something that has affected them that does not make them a better person. But sometimes, in these rare instances, you can know someone for a while and you can see really incredible positive change. And that is what we're talking about. That is what we're trying to focus on. And it doesn't come from ego. It doesn't come from watching a movie and going, oh, I want to make my whole personality this character. That's not real. That's just an egotistical desire to look a certain way, to act a certain way. You know, when I was younger, I watched the X-Men shows, and there's a character called Cyclops who is, he's like the leader of the X-Men. He is loyal, he is honest, he is genuine and wholesome. And for so long, I wanted to be Cyclops, and to the point where I got, like, he wears a visor, like these red sunglasses, and I got them and I was going to walk around all the time with them. And I was a little kid, and that is just a superficial desire. You know, if I want to really embody those traits, it comes from within. It doesn't come from a desire to look a certain way or to act a certain way. It comes from a genuine need to improve yourself, to have a better life, and to make life better for other people. That's the fundamental idea behind this. You need to get rid of the ego. You need to remove this desire that you have to see yourself differently or to have other people see you differently. You don't matter in this equation. It is about making the world a better place, making the world a more tranquil, enjoyable place for more people. And having that idea and removing it from your identity and who you are and, well, I'm a good person, I don't litter. That is so egotistical. That is so, it might make the world a better place. If you have this idea that, oh, I'm someone who doesn't litter and I'm such a good person, I'm going to post about it. You might be inherently making the world a better place. But what this chapter is talking about is making the world a better place permanently without the need for this like superficial gratification, you know? And so like it says, you know, renounce benevolence and abandon righteousness, and people will return to filial piety and charity. You know, it's not saying that having benevolence and righteousness is a bad thing, but it's just saying that when we abandon those ideas of looking like that or embodying them and being that, you know, paladin, gorgeous human being, when we abandon all of that and just do the work to be a better person, that is ideal. That is the absolute perfect thing. And so then the final three precepts in this verse: look to the simple and treasure the straightforward, diminish the self and control desire. Keep it simple. Don't overthink. Don't run your mind crazy. Don't gossip. Don't follow the herd. You know, you don't need the fancy jeans. You don't need the expensive watch or the fast car. You don't need any of that. You can keep it simple. Man can live on bread and water alone. It's not exactly, you know, variety is the spice of life, but keeping it simple and keeping your ego in check is a very powerful thing that makes your life a much better thing. I have found the more that I simplify my life, the more that I remove extraneous details, the more I get rid of the loud people, the people that just I know aren't good for me. You know, they're good people and they're trying their best, but they're just not for me. The more I remove those things from my life, the simpler it is. The simpler it is when you have fewer possessions and fewer things that you're scared of getting stolen or damaged or whatever, life is much better. I can promise you that. Treasure the straightforward. Really appreciate things that are simple, that have one characteristic, that are one-dimensional. There are things in this world that are one-dimensional, and there is a beauty to them that is so interesting. Complexity can have a lot of beauty to it, you know, a forest filled with different animals and plants and fungus and insects and, you know, a river and it has different weather. You know, that complexity can be absolutely beautiful, but so can a simple rock. And you should treasure that straightforwardness, treasure that singular dimensionality of things. I think it's beautiful. Diminish the self and control desire. Your desire to look a certain way, act a certain way, possess certain objects or things or even people really diminishes your quality of life because, as we've said before, you have no control over the way the universe is going to unfold. You have no control over it. And so when we desire something, it is us telling ourselves, my life will be better when I have this thing. And that first part of the sentence, my life will be better if, that's the problem. You need to get to a point where your life is better because it's end of sentence. Your life is better. That's it. That's all you need. Appreciating what you have in life, enjoying what happens, and figuring out how you react to situations in the moment. Like I've always said, without worrying about the past or freaking out about the future, just existing desire-free is honestly so enjoyable. Not requiring that drink or fancy dinner or whatever, and just existing. And when things happen that are great, you can enjoy them in the moment and let them move into the past. It's that easy. When bad things happen, you can understand that it's only going to happen for a small moment, and you'll feel very differently about it tomorrow and 4 weeks from now and 5 years from now and 30 years from now and 50 years from now, and one day you'll be gone entirely, so it doesn't really matter. So allowing the good and the bad to wash over you like a wave, like as if you're lying on the beach, let them wash over you. You can take different attributes, the good and the bad from both. You can process them, you can understand them, you can appreciate them while they're happening in the moment, and then they wash back into the ocean. And one day you will be gone and there will not be a trace of you on that beach. That is true diminishing of the self. So I think I have probably rattled on this for enough time. I hope I've done a good job. This is one of the chapters that I really enjoy. And as a young person dealing with social media and friends and family and stress and my career and future and university and all of those things, this chapter has helped me a great deal. And I hope that it impacts you in a beautiful way. I hope it's a beautiful wave that gets to cover you. You get to process it, experience it, and it washes you away. And I hope that if your genuine desire is to be a better person, to be a more tranquil person that can enjoy life on a deeper level, I hope that maybe this is the spark that lights something within you. You know, it's not going to be the motivation. You have to have that yourself. But hopefully there are ideas and concepts that we've talked about today that get you thinking about, well, maybe I do want to change this. And a few weeks later, someone will ask you like, wow, you seem really great. What's going on? And you can just smile and say, I'm enjoying life. You know, I'm being the person I want to be. And there doesn't have to be ego and self and chauvinistic braggadociousness. That's a mouthful. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Tao Te Ching, Chapter 19, Diminishing the Self. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.